But I will try to do something that I did in shul and expand on it. So I don't think anyone heard it yet, but I'll expand on it and try to compare Megilat Ruth to Megilat Esther. And I'll present you my theory. If you don't like it, too bad for you. So hopefully you will like it. No, Torah Shebe'al Peh. All Torah Shebe'al Peh. And but first we'll just say that obviously the shiur is sponsored in memory של יהיה לעילוי נשמת מנחם מנדל בן אברהם מאיר וטויבה רבקה וציוויה חיה בת אריה לב וחווה אידל by the Verntal families in memory of obviously of their parents. So I would suggest that you know what, let's start from the beginning. If I would ask you, why do we read, and no, so it's everything Torah Shebe'al Peh. If I would ask you, why do we read Megilat Ruth on Shavuot, you will come with at least 5 answers, right? Okay, let's start with the first one. David HaMelech. Oh, David HaMelech is mentioned at the end, Avi Shai, Avi David. According to our tradition, David HaMelech was born on Shavuot and died on Shavuot. Okay, very good. 1. Second. Chesed. The Gemara says, why do we have Megilat Ruth? We don't have any mitzvot, no commandments, no obligations, no nothing. So why do we have it? Answer is, it starts with Chesed. In the middle there is Chesed. At the end there is Chesed. It's all about Chesed. Okay, so that was the second. Third.
Agricultural period.
Very good. Ktsir Seorim. It was the beginning of the harvest. And therefore, Shavuot correspond in terms of the season to Ktsir Seorim. Wonderful. Fourth.
Love of the stranger and the ger.
Okay, the love and this for the stranger and the ger, which is obviously very important in the Torah. And also, to some extent, we went into the covenant of Torah through what? Through Milah veGerut. That's what the Gemara said, that we also, the Jews did not circumcise themselves in Mitzrayim, so they did it then, and then they became part of the covenant, and it was through like Gerut. Very good. And the fifth one is? So we had David HaMelech, we had Chesed, we had converts, we had Ktsir Seorim, and one more? Think about it. It's very simple. Suffering. Suffering, yeah. Suffering. Ruth and Naomi went through suffering in order to come to Eretz Israel and to be part of a community. And on Shavuot, when you celebrate Torah, you need to understand it's not going to be that easy. It's also going to be through some sacrifices that you do. Okay. 5 reasons. This year, I decided that I need a 6th one. And it should be mine. And hopefully I came up with something that I would like to share with you, which I really think can be substantiated through Tanakh and through the text. I wanted to claim that Megilat Ruth was written basically to contradict Megilat Esther. Now, before I'll go into proofs, I'm also going to claim, and this is the theory, Megilat Esther is a Megillah for Galut, for Yehudim in Galut, for Jews in Galut, this is not original. Many people say the same thing. But Megilat Ruth, I'll call it Megillah Tzionit, a Zionistic Megillah. This is very interesting, very dramatic, but with all due respect, why am I saying that? Now, before I'm telling you why I'm saying that, I will need to say 2 things. A, in order to create some kind of a theory like that and to start to compare between one Megillah and another, we need to know that we need to find same wording or connections between one verse to another. Sometimes the connection can be a positive one, and sometimes it can contradict, which means once the term is being used for A, and then it's being used for something else. Okay. And the second thing, the second Hagdama, the second introduction is timeline. We know Megilat Esther was written when?
Before Bayit Sheni.
Before Bayit Sheni. That was the time after Ezra and Nehemiah already were on their way to Israel. They start building the Bet HaMikdash. It stopped. Katvu Ktav Sitna, and that was Haman or his children based on the Gemara. So it was around the building of the first temple. Second, thank you. So that's Megilat Esther. What about Ruth? So the Gemara in Baba Batra, in Daf Yudal, it says that Shmuel was the one to write his own books. Shmuel Aleph, Shmuel Bet. Always interesting to me. He didn't make it. So it's Shmuel Aleph, and he wrote Shoftim and Megillat Ruth. That's what the Gemara in Baba Batra says. However, in the Mechkar, in the academic research, they have few opinions. One opinion is that it was written Achre Bayit Sheni, after the second temple. Around the second temple or a little bit after. Which means the second Bet HaMikdash was destroyed on 70 CE. So it was somewhere around that. Okay, interesting, because it says Vayibi Meshpot HaShoftim, whatever. Why do they say that? By the way, you can say they don't care, right? They are not religious. That's not true. What they do in order to try to find the time for whatever was written, you have a few ways to do it. So I know a little bit for my own thing, is that if you want to try to give a time to a manuscript, so there are professional people who look at the cloth and they look at the writing, so that they can determine if it was from the 12th century, 13th century, 14th century, France, England, Germany, whatever it is, based on the cloth. You can also identify Torot, where they came from, how old are they. I think we have a little bit of an experience here. And so that you can do. But how can you do it with Megillat Ruth? The thing is that you look at expressions and sentences and wordings. Meaning you look at words that were not mentioned in any other books of Tanakh, but they do appear where? In the Mishnah. So Mishnah is around the 2nd century. So that's how you create those theories. Second opinion says, no, Mapitom, it was mamash around the time of Ezra and Nehemiah. Why? It was a pulmus, like a letter anti-Ezra and Nehemiah, because Ezra and Nehemiah were very much into getting rid of all the women that were not Jews. The people who came from Babel, many of them intermarried. And Ezra and Nehemiah, one of the things that they told them is what? You need to separate yourself from those non-Jewish women. And Megillat Ruth shows you what? Here you have a foreign woman, a not Jewish woman, and look what she did. Right? So what do? That's the second opinion. Third opinion says, no, it was Bemet, Bimei Shpot HaShoftim. It was around that time. Not true that Shmuel wrote it, maybe someone else, but it was around that time. So 3 different opinions. Advantages and disadvantages to all of them. Now, just ask yourself a question. Why the Gemara says that Shmuel wrote them? So Shmuel wrote his book, that's fine. Shmuel, okay. Shoftim and Ruth. So he says why? Because you think Ruth is in the time of the Shoftim, because it says Vayibi Meshpot HaShoftim. Or because Shmuel wanted to what? To identify David as the king, because he was the one to what? To appoint David. Right? Now, by the way, even if we believe that Shmuel wrote it, he was not there. Because the son of Ruth is way before David HaMelech. It's not that Shmuel was there and took pictures, of Ruth and Naomi coming and Boaz and all of that. He was not there. It was told to him in a nevuah, if that's what we want to believe. Okay, so I'll leave it open because it's not a theological shiur here about what do we believe or not, but I just wanted to give the timeline according to all the opinions. Yes? Welcome home.
No, I'm leaving at 7 o'clock.
Oh, okay. I thought you left. That's what I looked at you. I said, wow, that's great. You came for the shiur.
We want to squeeze in a few last. I just heard that the day that you gave is that about Ezra and Nehemiah, that's when it was publicized. That's when it was printed. So can't you say to
No printing until the 14th century.
Publicized. So can you say that it was written by Shmuel, but then only became public later on with people making changes? Wouldn't that kind of...
It might, but It's nowhere in Ezra and Nehemiah. In the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, they barely knew the Torah, leave alone the Nach, and that brings a different question. When exactly the Nach was codified? When exactly the rabbis decided, okay, Zehu, 24 books, Setu, Zehu? We don't know. I mean, there are theories about Anshe Knesset Agdola, Ezra and Nehemiah, whatever. But we don't really know for sure when exactly was the time that they said, okay, Sefer Shel Yehudit, out. Okay, Maccabim, out. Okay, we finish with Divrei Hayamim. Why? How? Why? Not for now. Okay. So,
what do they do with all that? If they say that it was in the time of
that's a story about someone who was a governor in his town from Bethlehem. His name was Boaz, or maybe his name was not Boaz. We don't know if Ruth and Orpah and Naomi and Elimelech, that was their real names, or just names that were given to them through Tanakh. We have no idea. I can definitely assure you that Ruth's father probably didn't call her Ruth.
Right.
That's I'm almost sure.
And then the fact that she's the daughter of Eglon Melech Moab, I
Traditions.
don't understand how the second opinion holds.
How do we know that she was the daughter of Eglon Melech Moab? Only based on tradition, right? So how do they know? Because they wanted to create something. Okay, listen. Okay, so I'm not going to use the text too much because it's not fair. I mean, you can have it, you can look at your phones. But I just, in terms of when I want to quote psukim, so I want to show you something. So, the beginning. Let's start with the beginning. So obviously the beginning is Vayi bimei shvot hashoftim. Vayi bimei Achashverosh, right? Oh, wow, wonderful, right? Vayi bimei, Vayi bimei. But if I was you, I will raise my hand and say, Rabbi, are you joking me? There is Vayi bayom hashmini, Vayi bimei Yirmiyahu. This is not the proof. And I will tell you, you are correct. But that was just the beginning. Now let's start. The beginning of Megilat Esther, which I called it Megilat HaGalut, right? And Megilat Ruth is the Megilat Tzionit. That's my theory. Now, by the way, you forgot to ask me, even if what I say is true, you still have the question, okay, so why do we read Ruth on Shavuot? Just because we are Tzionim, we should read it when? Yom HaAtzmaut, not Shavuot. Right? So, we will need to answer that too. Bezrat Hashem will have an answer, but let's establish first the theory. Okay. So in Megilat Esther, the beginning, the opening statement is what? A feast. Celebration. Mishteh. Right? Achashverosh is doing a mishteh for half a year. 180 yom. This is crazy, okay? I don't know who paid for that, but half a year of celebrations of wine, food, women, everything going. And why would he do that? Why did he do this mishteh? Because he wanted to show control, right? He was the ruler on over 127 countries. He wanted to show that he is a strong king. He can provide for everyone whatever they want. And also he, according to Chazal, and I will try to avoid Chazal as much as I can, just in order to show you the narrative. He wanted to show to Vashti that he is the king and not she, even though she had the lineage, he did not. But, Evet ki imloch, he wanted to show that he is the king. So he wanted to show responsibility, and he had the wealth to do it. The beginning of Ruth, there is no mishteh. There is ra'av. There is famine. And the famine, same thing like wealth, looking for people to take responsibility. And Elimelech, who is being presented to us in the first sentence, seems to be that he shies away from any responsibilities and he leaves. He does not show any control over the situation or does not take any responsibilities. So in a very superficial way, this is not a it's not a strong proof, but we have mishteh versus ra'av, okay? Feast versus famine. And the reaction. B. This mishteh, this feast that Achashverosh did, he did it for everyone, Jews and non-Jews alike. And the Jews go there and they have a wonderful time. To the extent that God is so upset with them that want to annihilate them because they nehenu. There is one thing to attend, there is a second thing to attend and to enjoy. So they attended and they enjoyed it. And now I'm taking Chazal a bit. Chazal says that Achashverosh dressed up like a Kohen Gadol and gave them what to drink and to eat with the temple vessels, and the Jews enjoy it. So total integration into society. Total integration into society. You go to Ruth. In Ruth, what do we have? We have a family that tried to integrate into society, a different society, but doesn't work. We mentioned last week or whatever, they are dwelling where? In Sde Moab, in the fields of Moab. They didn't make it to the city. There is no integration yet. However, later on there is an integration of intermarriage. They marry Ruth and Orpah, and basically they feel that they are what? They are fully now integrated with the Moabites. Okay, so we have the idea of integration. Now, after we have this pticha, this introduction, now let's go further. What do we know about Mordechai, about his identity? No, Chazal. I don't know them now. So now no Chazal. He's from Binyamin or Yehuda. Okay, so he's from both. But he is called, the first thing that we know about Mordechai is what? Ish Yehudi haya b'Shushan Abira, and then Ushmo Mordechai. So the introduction to Mordechai is, hey, nice to meet you. What's your name? A Jewish man. Ish Yehudi. היה בשושן הבירה, ושמו מרדכי בן יאיר בן קיש ואיש ימיני, and then we have an חתון, אשר הוגלה מירושלים, עם הגולה אשר הוגלתה, עם יחוניה מלך יהודה, right? He was one of what? Of the people who were exiled. Oh, okay. So he was exiled, but רגע, at that moment, what's going on in Israel? They are building the Bet HaMikdash, or they are really in the construction, it's like here, right? It takes them time. So, why is there? That's the first question I ask myself almost every year. It means what? He does not care. There is Gola. By the way, how do I know that he doesn't care? Because even after the Megilah ends, you don't see, and Mordechai ve'Esther alu la'aretz benefesh, and they live happily ever after in Baka. No. They stay there because it's good. At least they think it's good. So Mordechai is one of the Golim, and there is an opportunity to leave the place. He stays.
Haman didn't even know he was Jewish until somebody told him.
Yeah, fair. Wait, we'll get there. So he's in Ish Yehudi. Yes.
Is he mentioned in Ezra or something?
Sure.
Mordecai being part of the people who went back to Israel.
So this Mordechai is Ish Yehudi. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing that he's an Ish Yehudi. And when we talk about his identity and his nationality, we don't hear too much. Not only that we don't hear too much, we hear Ish Yehudi. And then he tells Esther, do not say anything about what? Your identity. אין אסתר מגדת מולדתה ואת עמה כאשר ציווה עליה מרדכי. Who knows about מרדכי? המן. כי הגידו לו את עם מרדכי. The nation that stays in Shushan are being called what? Yehudim or Am Mordechai. Fast forward to Megilat Ruth. What do we have? Ephrati, מבית לחם יהודה, and at the end, פרק רביעי, what do we have? The name Israel few times. ויקרא שמו בישראל. וזאת הייתה לפנים בישראל. Which means not יהודי. יהודי is a galuti name that was given to us by whom? The Romans. We had Judea, we were expelled from Judea and we were called Jews. when you look at Tanakh, we are not called Jews only in Megilat Esther. What are we called? Ivrim, or Bnei Israel, or Am Israel. There's no Yehudi in the Torah. We were referred to Elohei Aivrim Shelachani Elecha. Okay? Elokei Israel. Not Elokei Yehudim. So what we see is an immediately contrast between Esther and Ruth. In Esther, the people are becoming Yehudim. They become groups, היהודים אשר בשושן, היהודים אשר כאן. We see also with Haman, it says, ישנו עם אחד, אבל is מפוזר ומפורד בין העמים. And they are not really an am. You can destroy them. It's not like destroying a nation. You're destroying a group of people here and a group of people there. When you go to Ruth, you're talking about Israel. So that's the third thing. Fourth, I know it's very קצת סטריאוטיפי, אבל we'll talk about it. What was the profession that the Jews had in Shushan? The known Jews. All government employees. Esther and Mordechai. Now we don't know what the other Jews did, but the known Jews were all in the government positions. What do we have in Ruth? Agriculture. All agriculture. Exactly like what needs to be done when Am Israel is in Eretz Israel, that we have what? That we have people that they are dealing with what? With agriculture. Ktsir Seorim, Akotzrim, Agoren. It's all about the agriculture. Okay? Move on. In Megilat Esther, we have a Jewish woman who marries a non-Jew in order to what? She had no other choice. Yeah, but the idea was that she will save the Jewish people, right? In Ruth, we have exactly what? The opposite. We have a non-Jewish woman who marries a Jew to create what? Beit Melucha, a house of kingdom, a dynasty of kings. Now, with Esther, we know that what? That Mordechai raised her. Why? Because Ein la av va'em. She does not have parents. Where in Ruth we have something very, very similar to that.
She leaves with her.
Yeah, Femo, do you remember the pasuk? No. Okay, so I'll show it to you. Says, Boaz says to her, זה פרק ג' אסף את אביך ואת אמך, רגע, in פרק ב', ויען בועז, ויאמר לה, הוגד הוגד לי כל אשר עשית את חמותך. Boaz says to her, I know what you did, אחרי מות אישך, after your husband died, ותעזבי אביך ואימך וארץ מולדתך. You don't have a father and a mother. And therefore also Boaz basically approached Ruth as his daughter. He always calls her what? Biti. And Mordechai raised Esther as Biti or Beiti. Okay? His wife or like his daughter. Okay? Really, without Chazal, it says, "Uvemot avia ve'ima lekacha Mordechai lo levat." So again, you have two women who are being raised by someone else. Okay. More. When you think about Megilat Esther, what was the miracle? Nikalu ve'amod ha'Yehudim al nafsham, which means what? They stood up and they had self-defense. They were able to what? To defend themselves and even to kill some of their enemies, and that's it. And then they stayed, right? What is the repetitive word that is mentioned in Ruth, especially in Perek Dalet? So we will do it like that. Perek Dalet. Start counting. ובועז עלה השער, Boaz went to the gate in order to do the ייבום, וישב שם, והנה הגואל. Okay, who is counting? Everyone is counting? Okay, one, הגואל. The redeemer. אשר דיבר בועז ואומר, סורה אשפה פלוני אלמוני ויסר וישב. Okay, I'm jumping ahead. ויאמר לגואל, second time. חלקת השדה אשר להכינו לאלימלך מכרה נעמי השבה משדה מואב. ואני אמרתי, אגלה אוזניך, and I say that I will tell you, קנה נגד היושבים ונגד זקני עמי, אם תגאל, גאל, ואם לא יגאל, אגידה לי, ואדע כי אין זולתך לגאול, ואנוכי אחריך, ויאמר אנוכי אגאל. Skipping a bit, ויאמר הגואל, לא אוכל לגאול, פן אשחית את נחלתי, גאל אתה לך את גאולתי, כי לא אוכל לגאול. ויאמר הגואל לבועז, קנה לך. ויאמר בועז לזקנים וכל העם, עדים אתם היום, כי קניתי את כל אשר לאלימלך, ואת כל אשר לחיליון ומחלון מיד נעמי. So, you got the point. I think it's like 10 times. The idea, 11? Thanks. Who counts, right? Who is counting? So the idea is the idea of redemption. ממש גאולה. Not just לעמוד על נפשם. Not only just to what? To save yourself. But the redemption. Salvation. Something that will bring to end this galut. Now, what's the last parak in Megilat Esther? Taxes. Right? Did you ask yourself, why is that there? Like, now I know, two things never change, death and, but why, who cares that Achashverosh put taxes on the lands? And, okay, someone needs to pay for the festivity and the war and everything, but no bemet, why do we need it?
Absorption into the Chevra.
Do what?
Absorption into the Chevra. It's a normal part of the Chevra. Taxes.
Which means everything went back to what it was before. Shum davar lo yishna. Yes? Mordechai is what? Yeah, Mordechai is up there, so we don't need to worry, right? Even with the taxation, maybe we got some kind of an exemption for tuition and things like that, right? And then, but take a look at the last pasuk in Esther. Ki Mordechai ha-Yehudi, משנה למלך אחשוורוש, is like אחשוורוש assistant, whatever, וגדול ליהודים, individuals, not גדול לעם היהודי, to the individuals, ורצוי לרוב אחיו, דורש טוב לעמו, he always tried to find good about his people, ודובר שלום לכל זרעו, to his descendants. I'm sorry to say something, and I know I'm recorded. One of the major differences between Galut and Eretz Israel is what? In Galut we build beautiful kehilot. Beautiful kehilot. What is missing? Nationhood. There is communityhood, which is a made-up word, but there is no peoplehood. Kehilot do incredible things. They support incredible institutions. But there is no le'om, and there is no am. This pasuk at the end of Megilat Esther, in my opinion, it's almost like the sum up of Galut. It's my kehila, it's my descendants, it's my family, it's the life that we live here, but there is no nationhood. Ruth ends up with what? First and foremost, it ends up with Ruth disappeared. Because you are here to do your job, and if I'm not needed anymore and someone else can do a better job than me, it's not about me. It's about the greater goal. That's A. B, what we have is that we have the entire neighbors and the entire city celebrates with them. Yeah, the city went through a transformation. The city in Perek Aleph looked at Naomi, says to her, oh, we are very sorry or happy that that's your situation, and did not offer help. פרק רביעי, the entire city celebrate with Naomi. And אלה תולדות פרץ, פרץ הוליד את חצרון, חצרון הוליד את רם, רם הוליד את עמינדב, עמינדב הוליד את נחשון, נחשון הוליד את צלמה. What do we have? We have continuity, which by the way also contradict the beginning of the Megilat Ruth. Megilat Ruth begins with what? With zero continuity. That's it. It's the end. It's machlon, kilyon. And we end Megilat Ruth with what? With all this shoshelet, with all this dynasty of people. And B, we have Malchut. And Malchut is what? Kol ha'am. You need the nation. You can't have a melech on a... Many people think that they are kings on a berech in their imagination. You need to have the nation with you. So this is the idea of Ruth. So, yes?
What do you do with Ratzui L'Rov Echav?
Not my problem. That was his problem. Ratzui L'Rov Echav means, by the way, Echav, not Amo, which means his people, some of them were jealous, some of them didn't like him. Chazal says it was the Sanhedrin, that they claimed that he's spending too much time in the government rather than in yeshiva. Okay, but that was that's a little later on perspective. But the idea is, Ratzui L'Rov Echav, is that many people liked him and some people didn't. So the idea is that I think we established enough that Megilat Ruth has the idea of Eretz Israel and not Galut. And now, if my claim is that it was anti-Megilat Esther, what is the idea? The story of Elimelech and Naomi and Machlon and Kilyon was what? They left Israel thinking that the future for them will be where? In Galut. Unfortunately, or fortunately, Naomi summed up her experience in Galut in the following sentence. Melea halachti vereikam heshivani Hashem. I went full and I came back empty. Now, don't get me wrong. When they came to Eretz Israel, no one was waiting for them. There was no apartment. There was no community. The community was hostile against them. But 4 prakim later, she established dynasty. Established, she didn't see it. She established what? A potential for dynasty, for future. Where? In Eretz Israel. Which means, when you look at Megilat Esther, what they accomplished was tangible. Jews could stay in Shushan for at least until Esther and Mordechai are gone. Everything will be great because they are taking care of us. And the next king, his mother is Jewish. It's Esther. It will be wonderful for the next 30 years. And then what? And then what? You have another Haman. Not this Haman. You will have his cousin. Whatever, you will have someone. Because, yes, you are there, but you cannot and shouldn't think that that's your place. That was the problem that Mordechai had. They called Shushan Habira, which means, what other city is called Bira? Yerushalayim and Bet HaMikdash. Habira Asher Achinoti. That's what Shlomo HaMelech says. Which means that their entire idea of where is home was skewed. Therefore comes along Megilat Ruth and says, it's better to stay in a Bethlehem Yehuda, which you are not sure exactly what will happen there. David HaMelech, to become a king, also had to go through hoops. But it's better to be here. So Megilat Ruth is somewhat of a antithesis, that's the word you say? Antithesis. Oh my God. We need to go to the dentist after. So, in Hebrew it's called antithesa. Antithesa. That's much easier on the Shinaim. Antithesa. So it's antithesa leMegilat Esther. Does not mean that it's going to be so easy here. But it means that the future is here. And that's what Megilat Ruth is talking about. It talks about land. It talks about תחילת קציר שעורים. What is תחילת קציר שעורים? It's the beginning. You don't know exactly how much you will have, but you are happy that you have something. You might not be as wealthy as the guy in Shushan, but he will have no future. I know it's hard. Maybe it's a little hard to hear. And it's not to dismiss what's going on in Chutz La'aretz. I told you, and I travel a lot. I see beautiful communities. I know many of you came from beautiful communities. But זה לא זה. And it's not only because we moved here. So, now the question is, and now I need to be careful because I can't go to 120, they will kill me with the mincha. Question is, okay, so why do we read Ruth on Shavuot? מה הקשר? Okay, Zionistic, wonderful, anti-Purim. Okay, so, on Yudalet read Megilat Esther and Tetvav read Megilat Ruth. I mean, what's the idea? And here is something that I don't think we think about when we talk about Torah. When we talk about Torah, so we think about, Har Sinai, we are all together, and really, Rav Hai Gaon, if I'm not mistaken, said, or Rav Saadia Gaon, says, En umatenu uma ela betorata, our nation is being characterized only by its Torah, and all of that, that is wonderful. But Eretz Israel has a very significant component into the fulfillment of Torah. And I'm not talking about mitzvot atluyot ba'aretz. I'm not talking only about mitzvot, commandments that are tied to the land. I'm talking about nationhood. The Torah that was given to us as what? As Am. Vayichan Sham Israel neged ההר, כאיש אחד בלב אחד, but to a nation. Now, this is interesting. The first thing that Ruth says to Naomi, when Naomi says to her, go home, she says to her what? Amech ami, veden Elokaich Elokai. You would think, if she wants to, quote unquote, convert, the first thing that comes out from her mouth will be what? Elokaich Elokai. First, let's talk about the Ben Adam Lamakom, and then let's talk about faith and the nationhood. No. Ruth starts with what? Amech ami ve'Elokaich Elokai. At the end of Ruth, why did I? 6:35. At the end of Ruth, it says. First, it says, "Vayomer Boaz lazkenim v'chol ha'am." What is kol ha'am? What, kol ha'am Israel egia to the wedding? No, but he referred to his people in Bethlehem as what? As am, nation. And then there is one more. There is "Vayomru kol ha'am asher bashar." Again, they could say, "Vayomru kol ha'anashim asher bashar." All the people who were there. No, the idea is am, nation. And then, והייתה האישה הבאה אל ביתך כרחל ולאה אשר בנו שתיהם את בית ישראל. And then that's it. Which means the idea of nation comes along again where? At the end. So, what is the importance of the nation in the Torah? And this is interesting. We have the idea of arvut. What is arvut? To being a guarantor to each other. This is how you can fulfill someone else's mitzvah, by the way. How can you fulfill someone else's obligation in a mitzvah? Do you know where is the pasuk that teaches us about arvut in the Torah? Agree. What's the pasuk? I don't think, I'm not sure if that's Azinu or... לא, את חושבת על משהו אחר, הנגלות לנו לבנינו. That's האזינו. הנסתרות להשם והנגלות לנו לבנינו עד עולם. Not this one. It's at the end of פרשת, if I'm not mistaken, כי תצא. וכשלו איש באחיו כמפני רודף, או ורודף עין. וכשלו איש באחיו ורודף עין. Which means, what does it mean, וכשלו איש באחיו? What is להיכשל? מכשול, obstacle. They will fall on each other. Which means, basically, at the time of stress, they will fall on each other. And it can be translated as that I'm going to fall on you, physically, or I can count on you. That's how Chazal interpret it, that the idea of being a guarantor for another Jew comes as a result of וכשלו איש באחיו. Now take a look at that. When Elimelech left, he ain't a guarantor to anyone. He ran away from responsibilities. Boaz and the Goel, who also shied away from responsibilities, the only one who took responsibility was whom?
Ruth.
Boaz. And Ruth, I agree. Both of them. You always have the question, who is the hero of the Megillah? With the Megilat Esther, you also have the same question. Is that Esther? Is that Mordechai, Haman, Achashverosh, perhaps Vashti? Maybe, what's his name? Hatach, or Bigtan Vateresh, or whoever. Okay, me? Charvona. Okay, whoever is the hero. The question you have here in Megillat Ruth, in a way, who is the hero? So everyone here will say Ruth, right? Nachon? Some people will say Naomi, some people will say Boaz, some people will say the neighbors, okay? And one person will say maybe the Goel was the hero. Okay, whatever we need to also define what does it mean a hero, how you constitute a hero. But leave all those questions alone. The idea of reading Megillat Ruth Davka b'Chag HaShavuot, it's to teach us that the Torah has another component, which is what? The national component. What brings us together to Megillat Ruth and Shavuot is the Torah was given on Har Sinai for a purpose. But the maximum fulfillment of Torah is when you have the 3 points of this triangle. Torah, Eretz, and Am. This is the Meshulash. This is the triangle. Only when you have 3 of them together, then Torah can be maximized to its fullest potential. So now, if I will ask you, what are the reasons we read Ruth on Shavuot? I hope you will tell me that there are 6 reasons. The known 5 and the additional 6. It's a theory. I think I can find more and more. When I looked at it again, I saw some other things. But that's more in the characteristic of Ruth versus Esther. Esther is being told what to do, and then she does whatever she wants to do. Ruth is being told what to do, and she always does it. Always. She does not deviate, which is very interesting. Esther has some kind of a transformative change in her personality. From a very quiet, shy, unassuming girl, she is the one to lead from Perek Vav and on. She's the one that is moving things on. And Ruth, she does exactly what she was told, and then when it's being accomplished, Naomi is the one to what? To take charge. Which is very, very interesting to see. But that's in terms of personalities, not in terms of the general understanding. Yes?
But Esther argues a lot against it first, certain things.
That's what I'm saying. She went through a transformative change in her personality from the beginning to the minute that she decides, okay, I'm going to the king, and whatever will be, will be.
Why does Boaz have to drop dead this night?
Okay, that's for today.
Which one is the that they